Hi, this is Jeff White with Life and Living Now and Versatile Fighting Arts, and I wanted to share meditation that I've been doing that I term Six Gates meditation. And with this, it gives us the opportunity to tonify, strengthen our intent, more importantly, to exercise our awareness and to strengthen our sense of awareness. And it uses our senses in order to do that. One of the huge benefits of this is it allows you with practice to become almost instantly grounded, mindful, almost instantly in a meditative state right from the beginning within just a few seconds. So I do not feel, I've been a long time meditator, and I do not feel that it takes a place from a sitting meditation. However, we don't always have time to go through our day um, and being able to take time and sit. And one of the challenges with sitting meditation was that once you got up, you then engaged in life. And obviously, the idea was that the transformations with awareness and consciousness that you would experience and you would allow to happen in sitting meditation didn't always transfer to your day-to-day life as easily as you would like. I'm often reminded of the monk who spent years up in the mountains and felt he was enlightened and came down and got into an argument with the town folk and had to go back up to the mountain because it's our engagement with the rest of humanity, with life itself, that really begins to determine how well we are um, transforming ourselves, growing, and expanding our consciousness and awareness. So this was a good meditation in order to be able to make that happen. And it's consistent. It builds on consistency. So with any type of, say, meditation or any kind of practice with anything, you want to continue to do this as often as possible. And I would say, test everything, but give it a good 90 days. And you could even say a good 30 days, and you'll begin to see transformations. I noticed, even honestly, within the first time or two that I started doing this meditation, that I was able to walk in a more meditative state in my life. I was calmer, peaceful. If I was distracted or I was in, living life doing something different, and I noticed that I was paying attention more to, say, my breath or my hearing or my eyesight and peripheral vision. I was becoming, and I came from a place of centeredness and awareness. And that's what it does. What this meditation will do is allow you to access and really to kind of trigger that, not quite instantaneous, but a very, to be able to very quickly put yourself into a centered, mindful state. So without further ado, let's kind of look at this. It's very simple. Um, with any type of meditation, it's never a matter of forcing yourself. Typically, when I teach meditation, I always teach one pointed meditation first, where I personally close my eyes and I focus at the spot in between, just above my eyebrows, center of the forehead. And the more that I look into and put my intent there, not in a forceful manner, but just with a calm intention of looking deep into the recesses of my mind, or into that spot, then I will see like a purple light or a white light will begin to show, and then I begin to look more deeply into that. That's what I do with one pointed meditation. Others will use a candle, can use a spot on the wall, can use almost anything. Some people use a mantra, like Om, Ah. You know, all those things are a focusing tool, and they're all extremely good. There's nothing wrong with any of them. But I like doing the one-pointed meditation first because it builds up that muscle, for lack of a better word, of intent and consciousness where I can begin to focus. And then I teach more of a mindfulness insight meditation where we're watching our thoughts. where we understand we're the thinker of our thoughts, we're not the thoughts themselves at this point, and we are, you know, creating that we're becoming more aware of that there can be a space between stimulus and response. We understand that we're the thinker of our thoughts, which is a huge insight, and therefore we can control our thoughts if we are the thinker, the generator of our thoughts, instead of our thoughts being automatic pilots so much of the day. So with awareness, and insight meditation, we're really just watching our thoughts. We're not becoming attached to them. That's also important in what we're going to do here, is that we're not going to become attached to anything. If I am, say, listening, and all I'm trying to do is just listen for sounds, when I hear a sound, I don't try and analyze it. I don't try and see what it is. I don't try and label it. I just acknowledge it. This is important, this whole idea of acceptance and reality, where I let it be. I don't try and analyze it. I don't try and engage a bias or deny it if it brings up something that triggers a memory. I don't try for any of that. I just simply let it go, and I just watch it. That awareness in itself, it can be transformative. So when we start working with this meditation, then be gentle with yourself. You will find that you will fail more often than you will succeed in the beginning. And the same instructions I give with one-pointed meditation, when I'm just focusing on a spot in my forehead, or I'm focusing on a sound, then I'm going to get distracted. Thoughts are going to come into my head. I'm going to get attached to them. I'm going to run down this little rabbit hole of this thought led to that thought, which led to this thought, which led to that thought. And if I'm attached, then suddenly I'm engrossed in those thoughts, and part of it, I'm participating in those thoughts. If I'm just being aware and being mindful, I'm watching those thoughts arise in my consciousness and then dissipate. But I can also begin to see, okay, that thought then gave rise to this thought, which gave rise to this thought. So now I can begin to see what associations I have made in my mind and my belief systems and my emotions. It's an awesome opportunity during this type of meditation to, when I feel resistance, when I feel that I have a repression and denial, to sit there and be with that feeling, to be with that sensation, to not try and block it. And sometimes this can be painful, and repressed memories are repressed because we don't want to deal with them. We don't want to face that pain. But then they get repressed within our psyche, and they come out in different ways. So what we want to be able to do is just simply let it go. And granted, easier said than done, but that's where the consistent practice comes in. But that's where the rewards are too, because as you begin just to let it go, you see insights into your psyche, to behavior. You see insights into why you do the things that you do and how you can change it. It creates a space, as I mentioned before, between stimulus and response. And so now you can begin to choose your responses and be more skillful in your responses rather than just being reactive. Extremely important. And as I mentioned before, one of the problems that I had saw early on with meditation is I would spend hours in meditation, and then I would feel this meditative state as I'd go through my day, but of course it would wear off. And I remember thinking, this is after several years of intensive meditation, and I was thinking, wouldn't it be nice to be able to just walk with this all the time? That was the idea, to stay in the state of elevated consciousness. That's what we're after, is to live from spirit, not from our ego mind. But there were times when it wasn't as, I couldn't just stop and sit for 15, 30 minutes, an hour to get back in that meditative state. That just wasn't an effective, efficient use of my time. And life didn't always afford that kind of luxury. So when I discovered this Six Gates meditation and started working with it, one of the first things that I noticed is that I could get myself into this calm, centered state. I would not say it's a fully, at this point for me anyway, it's not a fully deep samadhi absorption meditative state, but I'm able to work within I could work, I could have relationships, I could conduct my life, but it comes from a much more centered meditative place, much more centered place of consciousness, where now I feel like I'm actually moving from that sense of being conscious and let him through my consciousness. And so it was very, very beneficial. So when we start, then the way I like to do first is take several deep breaths. I tend to either just take several really good breaths through my nose, diaphragmic breathing, really filling my lungs up. Sometimes I'll use triangular breathing, where I will breathe in, I will hold it, and just not in a hard, compressed, hold, but something that feels comfortable, and that I could just hold that breath, and then I'll let it go. Some people will do box breathing, where they breathe in, say for 6 seconds, hold for 6 seconds, breathe out for 6 seconds, retain, not breathe for 6 seconds. So there's a pause between the inhale and the exhale. And, then again on the back end between the exhale and the inhale, there's another pause, and that's box breathing. They all have some benefit to them, and you could decide which ones that you like. Just experiment with them. But let's see with the first one. When we sit, now you can sit, you don't have to sit in lotus position. You can sit cross-legged. You can sit in a chair, in a regular chair with your feet on the floor. I find that it is beneficial for structure to be able to have my hips a little bit higher on my knees, or at least on the same line if I'm just sitting in a chair. The idea is I want my back to be straight, preferably supported. But the key that I find is, can I breathe? How well can I breathe? If I'm slumped over like this, and especially if you have a belly, then the diaphragm gets compressed. And my breathing is not as much down here. Diaphragmic breathing tends to be more up in my chest. So if I'm forward, in this case, hips are, my hips are just slightly higher than my knees, or about the same line. But I can tell I tuck my chin in a little bit, so it just kind of seems to open that airway. I just want to breathe. I'm going to breathe in through my nose. Let my belly expand. And then I can hold it. And then breathe out gently. Let's do it again. When I'm holding my breath, at first you're just looking at holding. You're not trying to force it. So you hold it as long as you're comfortable. It's a few seconds is fine. You can build for this for as long as you may want to, but the idea is to bring a sense of centeredness in. And this holding of the breath and then breathing creates that sense of centeredness. It kind of it lowers your blood pressure, drops you into a calmer state. So once again, breathe in through the nose, the diaphragm, as if you're filling up the diaphragm. Fill up the chest, fill up top of the chest, and then hold it. Breathe out. Don't force it. Breathe out through your nose. When I'm holding my breath, because I've been doing this for a while, at times I will kind of just check and see within my body. If there's a heaviness, I'll shift my attention that way. And a lot of times that heaviness will dissipate, it will open up. I will also do it with my attention and my awareness when I'm not holding my breath. But it just kind of gives you something to work with. And if you don't want to hold your breath with that, it's perfectly fine. Just breathe in, breathe out. When you breathe out, let your body relax, let everything relax. Hold it. Let it go. tend to shift my awareness, and breathing does this. It shifts my awareness to center of my heart, um, lower dantian, and then often I will engage third eye. But that's all a little bit more, we can say more advanced. Where the basic, all we need is 2 or 3 breaths, 3 or 4 breaths to get into kind of a centered state. Now, we'll use the eyes first. So just pick a spot on the wall that's away from you. And I want you to use a soft gaze and focus, look at whatever that spot is. But then I want you, and using a soft gaze, not a hard, intense stare. Because when you use a hard, intense stare, you tend to get tunnel vision. So instead, I want to relax. I want to use my intention and my focus, but it's going to be gentle. In martial arts, we use a term called we want our muscles to be toned, we want tone, not tension. So I want just enough so that for movement, so I can have this harmonious use of power, and I'm using the full potential of my body for power. I want to access as much as I can. The more that I'm tense, even in little ways, I have all these micro tensions in my body, it steals energy from us. So I want to not force this, but just to have a soft gaze. And I want to start paying attention without moving my eyes to the periphery. And I want to just sense what I can pick up. Sense what the limits are to my periphery. You can breathe while you do this. And you really want to sense. An interesting thing when I first got started was that I'm left-handed, but I'm right-eye dominant. And I would find myself as I went to go look at the other, towards my left, that I seemed to be using, I'm not moving my eyes, but I seemed to be limiting from more of a right eye. I thought that was interesting since this is an awareness exercise and I'm not actually looking. So I began to sense, okay, there's a limitation that I have. I have built in a limitation into my belief system. So let's relax that and engage my awareness and move past that. And so then I'm engaging from my awareness over on this side, and I can kind of see, okay, without still looking ahead, where is my peripheral vision? What picks up? You can waggle your fingers at first if you want, or not. But it begins to see where your limitations are at first, and then you can expand. But the idea is, don't analyze this. And it sounds like we're doing a fair amount, but really we're not. I'm trying to explain what the mindset is. When I'm using this is the first of our 6. When I'm using this, I'm simply looking at this one spot that's on the wall. And then I am expanding my awareness with this soft gaze. If I find resistance to something, or as I mentioned earlier, if it triggers something, a memory or thought that we want to run down that rabbit hole, and for whatever it may be, just let it go. All you want to do is focus on the periphery. Let your breath, breathing in through your nose, let it be even, unhurried, no sound is necessary. So obviously we're going to do that with our eyes open. With our eyes closed, and you can do it closed or open. Then let's just say we're going to switch to our ears. There's really not a set pattern for this. But if we go to our ears, now I'm going to switch. I'm going to shut down those senses for my eyes, and I'm just going to listen. And I want to note, I do not want to label. I don't want to define. I don't want to analyze what the noises are that I may hear. I just want to be aware. I always have a ringing in my ears, so I hear that, but when I attend to it, it tends to dissipate. At first, it may seem to grow a little bit because my attention is placed on it, but then it seems to dissipate. At this point, I may hear something from outside. I could hear, say, one of the cats or one of the dogs moving downstairs. I might hear something else. But I don't take note. I don't try and analyze, as I mentioned. I don't run down any rabbit holes. I don't try and become attached to the thought. I just let it be and I just listen. Then after you do this for 5, 10, 15 minutes, go to the next. The next gate, we went from eyes and ears, we'll go to nose. Now, the olfactory senses are amazing. You can tend to smell more, from my reading anyway, when it's warmer outside, um, your molecules are heated up, and you can smell more. You may not actually be looking, being able to smell necessarily anything. You might, of course. It kind of depends. I might smell when I get really calm on the inside and I'm just attending to my senses and to my nose and olfactory senses. At times I may smell, the fabric softener that was used. I might smell Glade air fresheners. And I might not. I might not sense any of that. And if you don't, it's perfectly fine. Then what you do is you pay attention to the feeling of the breath coming through your nostrils. So now we're going to come in and just going to breathe. And I'm aware of the feeling of breathing through my nostrils into my lungs. I have found when I do this that I naturally breathe much deeper. And when I have found that as I get up from a meditation and I'm still utilizing these exercises, in other words, I'm still relaxed, centering in my heart and in my heart and mind, and listening, that I'm calmer already and I'm able to pick up more sounds. So with this from the nose, just feel the sensations. Don't analyze them. I often have one side of my nose that I can't really breathe out of, having my nose broken as a young man, and sinus, but don't trip over that. Just be aware of the breath, of the smell. Now we're going to move to the mouth, to the taste. Obviously, we're not eating, so just still breathe in through your nose. Now shift your awareness to your mouth. With your tongue on touching the tip of the roof of your mouth just above your front teeth. I can sense my tongue. I begin to sense the how I taste on my tongue. I begin to sense the edges of my tongue, saliva, teeth, gums, inside of my cheek. I'm just being aware. I'm relaxing anything that hinders, inhibits, or wants me to turn away from a deeper awareness of whatever senses that I'm focusing on at the moment. And that's important. So anything that rises up that wants to get you to turn away, then sit with it, let it go, let it be there, but then let it go. Don't become attached to it. Now once we do that for 5, 10, 15 minutes, then switch to the body. Now with the body, I exist in this reality in time and space. Ultimately, if you've listened to me before, I do think we are all one. We're all consciousness and spirit. But in this plane, we have time and space, and I have my body. So now I want to become aware of my body. I can start from the inside, work my way out. I can start from the outside, work my way in. It is up to you. You can alternate. It's your journey. But when I sit, now I'm feeling. Once again, deep, easy, relaxed breathing, nice into the diaphragm, which means you want your back straight. I tend to first just feel. I kind of do a scan. Maybe I start at the top of my head, my neck, my shoulders. If I feel tension, I don't try and fix it as much as I place my attention on it. And often just placing your attention on it and observing the thoughts that come up from placing your attention on it. Allowing those thoughts just to express themselves without becoming attached to them, then often that becomes a healing in itself. Simple awareness becomes healing. If I feel a sensation in my body, maybe there's a rumbling in my stomach. I feel something in my gut. Just let it be. Sometimes when I'm sitting here, I had a torn meniscus a few years ago. Every once in a while I'll sit here and maybe I'll feel my knee it has a sensation. I don't think about it. I don't equate it back to anything. I just note it. I put my attention on it easily and I just pay attention. The whole idea is I'm learning to increase my awareness, using my senses, and then taking that centeredness, that groundedness that I have used, and then moving that into the rest of my life. I can have a sense. I have another meditation that is 5 elements meditation, where we focus on the visceral organs and combine light and sound and energy going into them, and it creates a harmonic balancing. With this, I'm just feeling. I'm feeling on fascia. If I feel tense and I can put my mind on it, I just want to relax my body wherever I feel tension. I want to begin to feel where the edges of my body are. I want to feel my legs, my shins, my toes. I want to feel, can I feel where the edges of my skin are? And then how do I feel where the fabric touches my skin? No judgment, no involvement, no attachment, just awareness. So we did eyes, ears, nose, mouth, body. 5 senses. The 6, I almost call this 5 gates breathing, but the 6 is, I want you just to sit and I want you to expand your consciousness in all directions. Imagine I have a ball around me of energy. So it can be light, it can just be energy, and some people are more visual, some people are more kinesthetic, more auditory. I am partially visual, but I'm much more kinesthetic, so I feel more than what I can say imagine in my head in terms of pictures. I've known others who think more in pictures and it's very vivid and they can just conjure that up. And so for those people, it may make this a little bit easier. I tend to feel, so I want to feel my energy expanding. Now here's a couple of things that are kind of fun. We are made to look forward, hear forward. We don't always pay attention to everything that's going on behind us. We don't need to a lot of times in our day-to-day lives. However, there are times we need to, and depending upon our lifestyle, where we live, how we live, we very much need to pay attention and have a sixth sense awareness of what's around behind us and off to the sides. And this will also help build with this. So I just want to say expand my awareness and in all directions. If for some reason I feel that because I have a wall behind me, that's my limit, well, that's a limitation in my belief and my understanding, not in my intent. Intention has no limitations. Intention does not meet a wall and stop. It moves past that. So expand your mind, expand your awareness, you're not really expanding your consciousness, but you're expanding your awareness of your consciousness, because we are all consciousness. We are all spirit. And so what we're trying to do, and the language here is a little bit misleading because, and I'll say when we're in meditation that you want to raise your spirit, that you want to be engaged. And it really is just using a term because I believe we're all spirit, and this is really clearing the clouds away of our ego mind and being able to live more from our heart mind and our spirit rather than from the ego mind. But we want to be able just to kind of let all that go and expand out as much as possible so that you kind of just feel. Imagine as if you could feel energy around you or feel what was around you in, say, a 5-foot radius, a 10-foot radius. It doesn't have to be limited. It could be 500 feet. It could be 500 yards. But when you begin to feel like you don't believe this is happening, then bring it back into where you are comfortable that you can feel this. At first, it'll seem much like an imaginative exercise, and in part because it is. But what happens is, as your mind goes there and you begin to really rest in this, then you'll see the transformations. I noticed it from early on and was amazed at this because I was looking for a way, as I mentioned, of carrying my meditation through the day, but also of just expanding awareness with my senses. I am not one of those meditators who believes you need to completely shut everything out in the world and just not live in the world and go up into a cave. That would be nice at times, but I do think it's important because we are sentient creatures that we need to be able to interact with others, and we want to bring that energy, bring that perspective to the other, to humankind. So we want to be able to expand this. And if we're stuck in a cave somewhere, nothing to be said about for caves or ashrams and temples and all of that. There are those who should. Their calling is to be in those places as they elevate consciousnness for mankind. I view it as more of my calling is to work with people and to help improve the quality of people's lives. So, and this is the best way I know of being able to do that. So now you're just going to expand. If you find yourself, once again, feeling or running into a thought that it triggers something that was an unpleasant memory, don't shut it down. Don't engage it. Don't become attached to it. But just acknowledge it, be aware of it. You can watch it without becoming engaged. Okay? You can watch the thought without becoming attached to it. And it takes practice. It does take consistent practice. And so I encourage you to do that. Do this for 30 days. Do it for 90 days before you make a decision on whether you want to do this or not. And if you do, fantastic. And if you don't, fantastic. Because it's your journey. There'll be something else that will come along as a tool to help you. So, to recap. Before we stop with that. So as we wind down the meditation, there's no special ritual. I'm not a real big fan of rituals, but all you want to be able to do is just make sure, if you've been sitting here, and make sure that your legs have not gone to sleep, and as you stand up, just take some time, ease into it, if you've been sitting and you're calming and your brain waves have been going, from beta into alpha or theta, then if you stand up too quickly, of course, your blood pressure may have dropped, and that can become an issue. So instead, just take your time, but try and stay in that centered state. I think you'll be amazed at how quick you can get into that centered state. And now, once you become more adept at this, then I have done this standing in line. All of a sudden, I will just go, okay, and I will just get centered in my heart mind. I said through heart or, so for me, a couple of different theories that I run through. Upper, mid, lower dantian, chakras, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. So I tend to engage heart chakra and the second chakra, and I'll add in third eye as well. But the idea is that, when then, if I'm somewhere and all of a sudden, I'm finding myself engaged too much in ego thinking, I can drop back in very quickly now into that centered state. It's the meditative state. We train in martial arts, and so with martial arts, it's how we get into that no mind state very quickly, where we don't have time to meditate before we have an altercation, but we need to be able to switch. This is an exercise that will help to make that awareness, that elevation of consciousness, that moving into no mind state happen much more readily and faster. So once again, sit down for deep breaths, get centered, remove the thoughts of the day. I like starting with the eyes first. It's just a nice, easy way to get centered. And pick a spot on the wall, and then with soft vision, just try and notice everything in your field of vision and stretch your field of vision past your periphery. Then move to the second gate. In this case, for today, it was the ears. And then I just want to pay attention to what I can hear and all the little things that I can hear without becoming attached. Then I go into the sensation of the nose, whether it's sense or the air coming through the nostrils. I go into the mouth, and once again, the same thing. And I am paying attention to the sensations in my tongue. And you'll notice you have different sensations at the front of your tongue, at the sides of your tongue. Your taste buds all react a little differently. The receptors are designed to pick up different flavors and tastes from the tongue. And you can begin to feel some of that without ever having to move your tongue, but I can begin to sense some of that. I can feel where my teeth and saliva. And then I move into my body. And that's where, just because it's the body, you're probably going to spend more time there. But I do a scan of the inside with organs and just feeling muscles, tendons, ligaments, bones. I do this in my Qigong breathing as well. And then I move that awareness to the outside, and I want to feel skin. I want to feel the edges where maybe fabric touches my skin. And I want to feel all those sensations. It's always staying calm, deep breathing, and just relaxed awareness. So I want to be very attentive in my awareness without having any tension. Anytime that I feel tension in any of this process, then I'm forcing. And when I'm forcing, I'm not going to feel it. So I want to relax that, and I want this relaxed state. I want intent, not force. So it's like when I'm doing Qigong, and I was learning how to lead energy through my body. And one of the instructions that I had read was, you can't force it. I can't force energy to my hands. I can lead energy to my hands. And part of it is, if I'm forcing there, I create a tension in my mind, and that tension then blocks the energy and blocks consciousness and awareness. Relaxed peace energizes it. And also, when I'm leading, I have an assumption that it's already there. If I'm pushing, I'm trying to get something done. So it's a different mindset. And with all of this, with the universe, we want to lead, we want to attract. We don't need to force. So as I go through all that, and then the last part is expanding, say, this sphere, expanding this ball of energy or light in all directions for as far out as you can go, and feel that you have created this ball of energy, and continue to expand on that as well. And so then when you finish, you bring it all together. You can focus again on your breath or the inside of your forehead, and just bring it all down. Breathe, enter. And you can get up, you can stretch, take your time getting up, and move to your day. I think you'll be highly impressed with how well this works and the usefulness, the utility behind it. And I encourage you. I'd love to hear what your stories are. You can always email me, and through this channel, or make comments, and we'll try and answer what we can. So thank you. Have a good day.